Somos La Dosis y estamos en nuestro canal de YouTube y Spotify. Adivinen qué artista tenemos hoy.
Para esta segunda podcast tenemos a nada más y nada menos que Perry Richardson, bajista de Stryper desde el 2017, and he was one of the first original members de Firehouse.
Mae, ¿se puede imaginar la historia que tiene este mae de Axel?
Saludos amigos y amigas, estamos acá grabando este segundo. Ver a Stryper para ahora este 8 de octubre. Imagínense ustedes ver y entrevistar a este gran artista también, lo que fue bajista de Firehouse, ¿verdad? No
exactamente. Algo muy importante, voy a acercarme. Gente, le preguntamos que cuál es el país que más ha disfrutado visitar. ¿Cuál país cree usted que es? Escribe en los comentarios y el que lo pegue va a tener una sorpresa al final. No se queden, quédense hasta el final, ¿verdad?
¿Cómo que no se queden? No se queden.
No se queden. Nos vamos a quedar.
Quédense hasta el final para que vamos a ver cuál es ese país que más ha disfrutado Perry. ¿Y qué más, Luisito?
Eso es todo. Más que todo, en Peppers, el 8 de octubre, el sábado 8 de octubre, en Club Pepper va a estar Stryper. Y ojalá que disfruten.
Vamos con la entrevista y vamos a ver qué opina Mr. Axel de cada pregunta.
Para Planet Rock, La Dosis, recuerden, 8 de octubre, Stryper en Costa Rica.
Stay metal.
Yeah.
Hey, pura vida, gente. Estamos en otro podcast y otro entrevista aquí en nuestro canal de YouTube. Hoy tenemos una de las bandas más legendarias de la historia, pero tenemos un plus porque el invitado de hoy no solamente es integrante de este grupo monstruoso que se llama Stryper, pero van a escuchar la historia del señor Perry Richardson, que ha estado en uno de mis grupos favoritos de all time. Así es que les dejo la presentación con Lu para que Lu le haga la traducción en inglés. No se pierdan esta entrevista que vamos a conocer la persona detrás de Perry Richardson en Stryper.
Gracias, Nel. Amazing. Yes, como acaba de decir Nel, everybody. Bueno, Stryper is coming to play at Peppers el 19 de septiembre ahorita. So we were super graced to get bass player galore Perry Richardson to be able to be with us today. And yeah, we're gonna have fun. Perry, hi! Thank you so much for doing this. We know that you're busy. Muchísimas gracias, as we say in Ticolandia. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it just from the beginning.
Hey, dude! Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. We are busy. We're getting ready to head out on about a 3-week run, so I got a lot to do around here, and I need to practice a little bit before I.
Yeah.
So,
muy bien.
We only been doing these fly dates now and then, and then you kind of get rusty, but I got to brush up on some stuff. We might throw in a few songs we hadn't played in a long time and try to keep it fresh. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to coming to Costa Rica, man. Can't wait.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions.
We're going to have a few days off down there, so
wait.
It's going to be like a little vacation for us.
Yeah, for sure. It's a nice place. Okay, let's start. A tu edad de más o menos de los 8 a los 9 años, sabemos que empezaste en un coro. ¿Ahí fue como la primera vez que encontraste o que descubriste que te gustaba la música?
So we've done a little bit of research. We noticed that you started in, like, basically that your music career started in gospel choirs when you were around 8 or 9 years old. And so, like, the question was, like, when you started doing that, did you feel it like, wow, this is something that I want to do? Or did it seem more like a chore? When was it that you knew that you were like, oh, wow, I want to.
This is mine.
You know, I think I knew when I first started, when I was singing in the quartet, when I was young like that, I loved doing it. You know, it wasn't like my parents made me or, you know, all that kind of thing. So I knew I loved doing it then, but when I first started my very first band that I was back then, I was singing lead and playing bass, and after the first week of putting that band together, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I just never gave up on it and kept trudging along. And had my parents were great. They'd back me and if it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So my dad built us a rehearsal hall or a little shed by the house, and he was in a band.
That was the next question.
That was the next question. That's a big theme on our show. We talk about that all the time, where we're like, man, it's so beautiful when
it's amazing that
when you're a parent or if your parents support you. Nelson, tell them about your mom. Nelson's mom is always like calling into the show saying, "Stay metal." She listens to every show. So that's a beautiful thing. That was actually the next question that we were going to ask you was like,
entre todas las cosas que siempre queremos rescatar a los que nos gusta el rock y el metal, es lo importante del apoyo de nuestros padres y de nuestros familiares. Y en mi caso, a mí nunca se me olvida que en el show de Guns N' Roses que estaba yo cantando y nada más volví a ver hacia la derecha y escuchaba a mi mamá en primera fila gritar y ese grito es el más importante de todo el estadio. Igual tuvo que haber sido para ti. Qué bonito es cuando tú inicias tu sueño y tus padres te dicen, aquí estamos de la mano para ti, para ayudarte. Eso me parece fantástico. Cuéntanos un poquito de la historia de cómo tus padres te ayudaron en el inicio.
So, basically, with like Nelson was saying, that when he was able to perform to open up for Guns N' Roses, where he was able to be on that same stage, that his mom was right there first row, like cheering with this, that he could hear her with everybody there because she was so like emotionally like, oh my God. So that's a big theme for us. Nelson and I have our cousins, and so family is very important to us. Can you expand a little bit on just how like beautiful it is that your parents helped you so much in pushing you towards
the beginning?
They did, man. It was so funny when we put the first band together. CJ from Firehouse was there. He came down. He was in Pennsylvania, so a bunch of guys moved down from Pennsylvania to Myrtle Beach area and had nowhere to stay. My parents bought them a camper. And we put it beside the house.
Wow.
My dad built us a rehearsal place, and they lived there, man. And my mom would cook every night and feed everybody. And
wow,
they just helped me get a loan to buy our first PA and truck and all that stuff. I mean, they did everything for me, and it was. My dad wanted me to play country. Other than that, he was he was a big country bluegrass guy, and he was always kept on me about, man, you need to start a country band, get out of this rock and roll. But he knew I loved it, and I eventually did get into country. But he didn't live to see that. He didn't live to get to see me play the Grand Ole Opry, which I hope he was looking down and smiling on that. But I just can't say enough about it.
That's amazing.
The best. Yeah.
Qué bonito. That's amazing. Qué tan increíble es el destino que Max Warrior abrió para Stryper en 1985. ¿Eso es cierto? Cuéntanos un poquito de la historia.
So how insanely crazy is it this world that your band Max Warrior had opened for Stryper back in 1985, and now you're a member of the band?
Yeah, that was probably the highlight of my career so far when we got to open for them. It was because they were one of my favorite bands, and we were in Charlotte, and we played Charlotte a lot. We were based out of Myrtle Beach, but we played Charlotte and Raleigh, all over North Carolina. So we were pretty big in that area, so they let us open for them, and it was. They treated us great. They came out and met everybody. We met everybody, and they talked to us for a good while while we were doing a sound check and all. It was really great. I fell in love with the guys that night, and that impacted me through their whole career. I kept up with them the whole time because I loved what they were doing, and the new stuff just started getting better than the old stuff. And I was like, wow, this band is amazing. And when I got a chance to be a part of it, I freaked out.
Wow. Pero bueno, eso es una muy buena enseñanza para todos los que nos están viendo, porque a veces la gente cree que los sueños no se hacen realidad, y sí se hacen realidad. O sea, te puedes imaginar a Perry abriendo con su grupo, empezando para Stryper, y muchos años después ser el bajista de Stryper. Así es que, gente, no paren de soñar. Ok, vamos con la otra pregunta.
Perry Nelson was just saying, he was just giving a message to everybody that that one of the another theme that we harp on about is to never let go of your dreams, and for you to like be like, wow, we're opening up for Stryper, to so many years later being the bass player for Stryper, like that's real life example.
Never
that, like,
stop dreaming. Never. You have
That's
to
right.
work hard for that.
I think that's the only difference in me and so many hundreds of thousands of bass players that are out there. I just refused to give up. And I wanted it so bad that I just wouldn't quit. I would live on not making any money forever, you know, and just eating bologna sandwiches and just sacrificing for what you want to do. And I just didn't, I didn't quit. I chalk it up to that, you know. It's not
La perseverancia.
Yeah.
Perseverance.
Exactly. Ok, entre 1984 y 1989 hubo un trabajo muy fuerte y estabas en una banda que se llamaba Nantucket. ¿Cómo se pronuncia?
Nantucket.
Ajá. Por un tiempo, ¿cómo fue ese tiempo hasta que llegaste a ser firmado por Epic?
Okay, so there's a few questions here. First off, what was it like for you to get recruited to form Firehouse? When like how did that process happen? Like how was it that you got asked to be part of that group?
Well, CJ and I were in Max Warrior together, and Bill and Michael were in a band together called White Heat up in Richmond. And before it ever joined it, we had run across these guys a couple times, and we loved their sound and really loved Bill's playing and Michael's playing. And so when the Max Warrior thing broke up, I went and played with Nantucket for a couple of years. And then during that time, they were trading tapes back and forth and writing songs and stuff. And they decided to put it all together and form a band. And, you know, as soon as they did, had to put my notice in so that I'll be on the way. So we went to Charlotte and got a band house in Charlotte and hunkered down in there and just started writing songs and recording them on a little 4-track and worked day and night on that for about a year, you know, before it started happening.
Okay. Bueno, yo me estaba brincando una pregunta, es que y esa era una pregunta muy importante, ¿verdad? Para la gente que no sabe el pasado tan impresionante que tiene Perry Richardson. Perry fue el cofundador y fue parte de Firehouse en sus mejores tiempos. Entonces estábamos hablando un poquito de eso porque yo me brinqué esa pregunta que era de las más importantes de todo el camino.
That's okay. So we were just making to anybody that didn't know, that only thought that you were from just Stryper because they didn't know that you were one of the seminal glam rock bands of all time, one of the biggest, over 10 million albums sold, 2 million albums with Firehouse as well, from back in the day. When so you described that grind of like having to persevere and just do everything that you have to do to just get there, right? And if it takes eating bologna sandwiches or sleeping 6 people in a hotel room, that whole thing. What was it like the day that you found out that you guys were actually signing the actual paperwork to be signed by Epic? Tell us about that day, that experience.
That's actually the day.
Yeah, man, I mean, as you can imagine, you're so overjoyed because all that sacrifice we thought was worth it, and finally we're getting the recognition that we've been striving for, and that they loved what we were doing enough to put the money down for us, and that it was just, triumphant for us. It was everything. And back then, before now bands put their own stuff out, and it's not a big deal. You don't have to have a record deal anymore. But back then, dude, it was do or die. If you didn't have a record company on your side, you would never get heard anywhere. And so we were just so happy. We couldn't stand it. It was like a dream, man,
Sí. De verdad que sí, que impresionante. después de haber conseguido tantas cosas increíbles con Firehouse y tener tantos años de ser parte de la familia Firehouse, ¿qué te llevó a salir del grupo en el año 2000?
So, a couple things. First off, when you were with Firehouse originally, what was it like for you personally as a band member, when you saw that the music world was shifting to like a grunge style, where it was like, okay, wait a minute, because 1990 was when the self-titled came out, and that was like almost the end of the glam era, beginning of everything new, right? Where it was like, uh-oh, what's this Nine Inch Nails Nirvana stuff? What was that period like for you as a musician when you were like, in that perfect, dichotomy of the shift of the musical overtone shift?
Yeah, I mean, when it's happening, we can look back at it now and see how it was such a drastic overnight, just bombshell, When it was happening, you don't see it like that. It's just a day-to-day grind that you're still going through. I mean, we just started working on just put our second record out in 92, right when that was starting to hit. And, I mean, we were right on the cusp, man. If we'd have been out 2 years earlier, it'd probably been a lot bigger, But all these bands in our genre kind of got the rug pulled out from under us, and it just gotten oversaturated was one problem, I think. And it was grunge was a fresh feel, and lyrical content and everything really grabbed a lot of people. And I can understand that because it was just too much. But we fought and kept going, and we didn't change a lot. We didn't want to, hey, let's start doing grunge sound
Exactly.
stuff.
Exactly. You have to be what you are.
Yeah, and we were like probably the last freaking, hair band or whatever you want to call us that had a top 40 hit on Billboard. I mean, that was in 95 or 6, I think. So we kept it going to then, and then a lot of the international stuff. And, we had gold albums in, I think, 10 or 11 different countries. So we did a lot in Japan and Philippines, and Asia really kept us going for a long time too. So that helped us out. But, it was looking back at it, it was crazy, like overnight, but when it was happening, it didn't seem that way,
Okay.
And then the second part of that was in 2000, what was it that prompted for you to say, you know what, I'm going to take I'm going to just take a break from Firehouse? What was that? Or not a break, but leave the band? Like what was it just like just kind of a burnout scenario? Like what was
we were very burned out, man. That was CJ and I had been together since 1980, with only a couple of years off in there. We were sick of each other. I was sick of doing the same type music over and over and over again. And you'll see on that last album I was on, in Category 5, I was in on the writing I was the main writer on that record. So, and you can see where that was changing. I was trying my best to change the band, and you can also hear a hint of country flavor and some of that stuff. And I had it in my head then. I was like, after that record come out, I wanted to go right back to doing the same type of stuff we were doing before. And I had enough of that. And I decided to move to Nashville and try to do a country thing. So
La siguiente pregunta.
that's the man. That's how mostly how that kind of went down.
Okay, aquí viene un spin. Viene un cambio. Yo sé que has contado esta historia muchas veces, pero muchas personas tal vez no lo saben. Nos encantaría que nos compartieras un poquito qué fue esa experiencia de haber terminado trabajando con Craig Morgan por 14 años.
So pretty much anybody who knows like who you are, Perry, or is a fan, they've heard the story of how you ended up working with Craig Morgan for 14 years. But since this is going to be like kind of a new audience you're going to have some fans of yours that are going to learn the story for the first time. We'd love for you to tell the story that you told thousands of times about how you ended up working for Craig Morgan for 14 years.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny story, actually. So yeah, I'd already moved to Nashville, and my best friend was playing drums for Craig, and their monitor guy quit, and they didn't have anybody to come out to run monitors for them. They were touring pretty much full time. So Michael, the drummer, he called me and said, "Hey man, could I know you're not a monitor guy, but could you run monitors for us until we can find a monitor guy?" And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I've never done it before, but it can't be that hard, right? So I went out and did it for a few weeks, and still hadn't found anybody. I was like, kept going and going. I was like, well, I didn't have a job and anything to do anyway, so it's like, what the heck? And so it was probably 3 months into this, the bass player in the band had to go to a wedding or something. I can't remember what it was. And they couldn't find a replacement bass player last minute. So Craig was like, I guess we're going to have to cancel these shows. And I said, well, I think I could play bass for this stuff,
Wow.
Like, what? You play bass? I was like, yeah, I played a little bit. I heard these songs every night for a few months. I think I can follow along. He said, okay, let's try it instead of canceling. So got up and did the shows and went off pretty good. I didn't blunder so bad that we had to stop or anything. So he was at the end of the night, he was like, wow, dude, that freaking felt better than normal. And he said, you want a gig? You want to play for me? And because the other guy had thinking about quitting. So talked him into go ahead and quitting, and got me on board. And yeah, I mean, that lasted, I can't believe it, but yeah, like 14 years with him. We were having a great time, and he was right at the peak of his career. He was getting #1 hits, and we were having a great time. And then after that, Trace Atkins called me out of the blue one day and offered me a lot more money. It was Trace. We were going to do a lot of TV stuff. And so I felt bad, but I left and went and played with Trace. Did that for a couple of years, and the new wore off of that one quick. And I asked Craig if I could come back, and he welcomed me back with open arms to come on back home. And came back to Craig and played a couple of more years before the Stryper thing happened. So.
Excelente. Hey, Lu, usted le pasó las preguntas a Perry, ¿verdad? Porque cada vez que voy a hacer una pregunta que sigue, él ya la responde, ¿verdad? Usted se las pasó.
Nelson just asked if I gave you our interview questionnaire, because you're doing the perfect lead-ins.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
That's amazing. Ok, bueno, ya hablamos un poquito sobre Craig y sobre Tracy Atkins, que era la pregunta que íbamos a hacer, pero ya no la adelantó. Ahora sí vamos a entrar de lleno un poquito a lo que fue Stryper. ¿Cómo fue que se dio esa unión en Stryper el 30 de octubre del 2017, que ya te quedaste como bajista de Stryper?
So, all right, now Stryper time. Can you tell us about how joining Stryper full-time happened on October 30th, 2017?
Well, we didn't really know each other, and we'd met that. Well, I met him that one time when we opened for him in '85, and then I think I saw him backstage maybe twice since then. So they didn't know me. I mean, they knew about Firehouse and all that, but I wasn't on their radar at all. So one of their managers was talking to a good friend of mine that did some promotion in North Carolina. He was a great big Max Warrior fan, followed us everywhere back in the day. And their manager said something to Marty about Stryper might be needing a bass player. And he immediately grabbed a pen and wrote my name and number down and gave it to the manager.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so Dave looked at it and saw my name, and it's like, no way, this is so weird. Because their manager, Dave Rose, he had a band back in North Carolina, that one of their first gigs was opening for Firehouse at one before we got signed. It was like while we were still shopping for a deal in Raleigh. And he said we treated them great, and we're really good guys to like an up and coming opening band, and it kind of stuck with him, and he kept his eye on me through all those years, and that was it was kind of meant to be, man. I've loved Yellow and Black all my life, and here I am.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, Dave pushed for me to get an audition. He called the guys in the band, and they said, sure, we'll give him a shot, and they sent me 4 songs to learn, and I flew up to Massachusetts, and we sat in a little tiny room and played through everything, and didn't sing at all. We're just playing. And I didn't know the songs that well. I was like, gosh, I wish I had somebody singing so I could tell where I'm at, Then we quit playing and we just sing a cappella together. And I can't lie, I was pretty nervous because I'm meeting one of my favorite bands face to face for the first time, really. And it was great. And 2 days later, they called me. It's like had a few more people I wanted to audition. They called me 2 days later, so we're not auditioning anybody else. It's yours if you want it. So that's how that happened.
Eso es fuera de las preguntas, pero qué bonito ver este camino que ha tenido Perry en la vida, que ha sido una persona humilde, trabajadora, positiva, esforzada, y que la vida lo ha premiado con todos los sueños que ha querido, ¿verdad? Así es que nada más felicitarte, Perry, por todas esas cosas tan lindas que la vida te ha dado, porque tú te las has merecido.
Nelson saying that it's just a beautiful thing when we can actually meet somebody who's humble, hardworking, who has perseverance, tattooed on their soul, and doesn't give up, to be able to reach those pinnacles after such a after that grind of pushing through no matter what. And then with everything in life, when we do that, that's when these beautiful things happen to us, right? Like tunnels and highways. We go through that tunnel and that light's out there, and like, oh wow, it was worth it.
Es que muchas felicidades. La siguiente pregunta es, queremos como que te devuelvas al tiempo y nos digas exactamente lo que sentías el primer día que tuviste tu primer ensayo oficial como parte de Stryper. ¿Qué sentías en ese momento mientras ibas caminando al rehearsal?
All right, so this is like flashback type scenario. When after the guys in Stryper were like, this is our guy, and you knew you were in the band, right? And now you're going to that very first rehearsal, officially a member of Stryper. What did you feel? Like, what were you feeling when you were driving to to your first official? Wow, I am in this band. It's mine. They're not changing their mind. It's like, what was going through your heart?
Well, that was probably the second happiest day in my music career, after getting that record deal and getting that first platinum album and all that kind of thing, was getting this gig, because I was really ready to quit music and totally. And Nashville had just wiped me out. I was sick of it, and I was ready to move back home to Myrtle Beach, and I decided to just quit and go back home, So it came at the absolute perfect time. It was so weird. And everybody lives everywhere, so I could go ahead and I could move back home. I could get out of Nashville, which I needed to do, and get back home around some family, and a little more laid back down here. And it was what I needed. And it was, like I said, perfect timing. But it was the best feeling. I can't even explain it, dude. It was just, it meant so much to me that they thought that I would fit in, and that I was good enough to be on stage with such an iconic band, man. It made me feel, it was humbling, man,
Excelente. Qué bonito, sí. Es que te puedes imaginar, Lu, lo que debe ser que te digan, ok, ya vas a ser parte de Stryper, ¿verdad? Y llegar al ensayo con esa emoción, que tengas tanto talento, es algo que realmente te tiene que emocionar. Así es que, qué chivas esas cosas que ha vivido Perry. Y ya entre casi las últimas preguntas, cuando te quieres acordar y cierras tus ojos sobre tantos conciertos que has vivido, ¿hay algún concierto en específico que tú dices, este fue el show más impresionante de todos los que he vivido en mi vida? ¿Cuál sería?
So we're going to get into like some random personal questions, fun stuff for you. When you think of all the live shows that you've ever performed at in your entire life, doesn't matter what, you know, what size venue, festival, whatever. When you think live shows, is there one in particular that you performed at on stage that immediately comes to mind, and why that?
Wow, that's well.
Like,
What
I'm
just
not
popped
saying
in
your
my head
favorite
was
show of all, not your favorite show of all time, just the one where you like, you know, when you're thinking of like live shows, you're like, oh man.
the one that popped into my head was the first time that I ever got to open for Judas Priest.
Wow.
And that didn't happen until until I was in Stryper. And
Bien, bien.
Priest has been my all-time favorite band, just above and beyond anybody else to me. I mean, it was just, I love them, and got to meet Rob several times and hang out with him. Such a great dude, man.
Yeah, amazing voice.
It's
Metal God.
best metal singer that's ever been,
Oh,
in my opinion.
no hay nada más arriba de Rob Halford.
He's so crazy. But yeah, that just popped in my head. I mean, that would have to be the first time I got to open for Judas Priest. That was in Spain, I think, right? Yeah, that was in Spain.
Ok. Ahora sí vamos con más preguntas personales. Ya casi vamos a terminar. Cuando piensas en lugares que has visitado en el planeta, ¿hay algún lugar que te gustaría regresar o que quisieras conocer de todo este planeta impresionante?
So you've gotten to travel all over the planet, right? Because you've been in so many bands and so many different, you know, you're playing here, playing there. Is there one place that you think of that you're like, wow, you know what? I didn't expect at all that it was going to be so amazing when you got there. Was there like like one, you know what I mean? Like one show in one city or one country where you were like, I didn't expect that I was going to fall in love with this place.
Mexico.
Oh yeah?
Mexico!
Yeah.
Amazing
It blew me
people,
away.
amazing.
We were there right when the pandemic hit, you know, and it blew me away. The fans blew me away. The venues, the hotels, the people. It's nothing like what you expect, and that was the biggest surprise. I mean, I'd played Mexico once before back at Firehouse, like maybe in 1990, and I couldn't really remember it. That's the most surprised I've been. Yeah.
Nice.
Excelente, excelente. En todo el tiempo que andas de tour, uno sabe que prueba muchas comidas y prueba muchas cosas de cada país. ¿Hay alguna comida en específico que sea tu comida favorita siempre que andas de tour?
When you get to go on tour, right? Is there a spot where you're like, oh, thank goodness, I get to eat blank from a food standpoint as a foodie, where you're like, oh man, oh yes, this one's on the list?
Oh, I'm not a foodie.
No.
I don't really like a lot of foods, man. And I was raised on a farm in the South. You'd think I eat everything. I don't,
Okay.
man. I don't even like vegetables. I don't like pasta. I don't know what's wrong with me, but no, I can't. I get maybe when next time we get to go to Brazil or Argentina, those steakhouses they have in
Houses, right? Yeah, next level.
Sword, yeah. I might look forward to that.
Okay.
Ok. Ya esta es casi la última pregunta. Siempre nos gusta saber qué has escuchado hoy de música. O sea, ¿cuál ha sido la última canción que has escuchado independientemente del género de música que sea? Nada más que seas sincero y nos digas, ok, acabo de escuchar lo que X.
Regardless of genre, doesn't matter. This is not like favorite list of all time. No, just real life. What was the last music you listened to? What band, what songs, what are you listening to these days?
Today or yesterday?
Like today, you're like, yeah, like, hey, you know what? I listening to blank.
When you're driving in your car.
Okay, yesterday I was putting down a laminate floor and a new shed I bought, so I had music blaring, you know.
Wow.
So here's what I listened to. Let's see if I can remember. Uriah Heep, Angel, Adam Lambert, Sweet, Suede. What else? There was one more. Leonard Skinner.
Nice, very nice. Para que vean que escuchamos de todo tipo de música. Y bueno, ¿alguna vez has venido a nuestro país, que es Costa Rica, o esta es la primera vez que vas a venir a nuestro país?
So before we close, we had one last question. Have you ever traveled to Costa Rica before, or is this going to be your first time? And have you ever been to Costa Rica on vacation, perhaps?
No, never been on vacation. And I can't remember if Firehouse played there or not. A lot of the Firehouse stuff was kind of a blur for me. I don't think we did. So that's why I'm really looking forward to it. And if we did, I don't remember it. So this is going to be all brand new. And I've heard a lot of great stuff about it, and really looking forward to it.
Somos un país pequeño, pero realmente todo el país está esperando que venga Stryper. Te vas a emocionar muchísimo al ver el venue súper lleno y el amor y el cariño de toda la gente que está deseando, como nosotros, ver a Stryper.
Yeah, you're going to be very impressed with the fans you have in Costa Rica. Like, no doubt. There's real life. There is a tribute to Stryper show going on Sunday, October 2nd, 5 days before your show, where there are at least 6 bands performing, and that'll be a full house. And that's a tribute to your show coming up 5 days later.
Can you imagine? So awesome. El tributo.
I love that. Yeah.
Sí, sí. Bueno, Perry, muchas gracias por tu tiempo. Gracias for your kindness. Thank you so much for your time. You are amazing, man. Me alegro mucho de que todas las cosas que has conseguido se te hayan dado, porque eres un ser maravilloso. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Perry, for taking the time with us today on La Dosis. We are blessed and honored to have you as not just as a badass musician, as a wonderful, talented musician that you are, but especially as just obviously humble, beautiful spirit of a person that you are as well. So we wanted to say thank you so much, most genuinely, for taking the time with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
¡Hey, pura vida! Estamos de vuelta aquí en La Dosis. ¿Qué opinas, Mr. Axel, así global primero, sobre esta entrevista que tuvimos tan chida con Perry?
Saludos, mis amigos. Ahorita está viendo la entrevista con lo que es el nuevo bajista de Stryper. Estuvo súper excelente, mucha humildad. Me quedé impactado con él totalmente, siempre con el primo Lu, con el Nelson. Las preguntas que se hizo, no tengo palabras para decirlo, pero me encantó. Y esto es para La Dosis, para ustedes que tienen que prepararse en el canal de YouTube, La Dosis Radio.
Yeah. Luisito, también no sé, ¿qué opinó al final de todo eso?
Es que estaba buenísimo. Lo que a mí me encantó fue la primera vez que él dio la respuesta que usted pudo oír también sobre cómo era que él empezó ya de nuevo en su career de music, que él estaba 14 años como bass player para Craig, y cuando he got that job era porque, o sea, no tenía un brete. Se salió de Firehouse porque ya estaba quemado. Sí. Estaba buscando un brete. Y fue que le preguntaron, hey, ¿quiere trabajar con los monitors? Y él, bueno, ok, JC, así es, let's go do it. Y después no llegó un mae para el show, el bajista no llegó para un show que tenía Craig. Y le preguntaron a él, bueno, Jay, ¿se va a cancelar el show porque no tenemos bajista? Y él dijo, yo sé
tal vez yo pueda.
I know how. No sabían que era de Firehouse, no sabían nada. y vea cómo es la vida después con Trace Adkins y ahora con Stryper. Es que es
increíble, la
hablamos de
verdad.
eso all the time, like how
Sí,
important
el
it is.
destino es tan,
El
tan bueno que le
destino,
puede
right?
a uno dar muchas cosas. Por eso, como hemos dicho en el programa, es bonito soñar, pero hay que hacer el trabajo.
Yeah.
Y muy importante, estar preparado. A la veces la gente cree que el furgón, como decimos en español, que el tren pasa todo el tiempo. Y no, el tren pasa una vez y si usted está preparado y es el momento indicado, las cosas pueden suceder. Así es que bueno, una entrevista más, no se pueden perder la tercera, que va a ser algo muy especial para todos los que estamos aquí en Costa Rica.
Y ya saben, siempre todos los miércoles 8 p.m. Planet Rock La Dosis con el primo Lu, Nelson Agresor y Axel Metal.
Yeah.
Buena vida.
No se lo olviden también, ladosisradio.com para todos los chivos que vienen al país, los videos, el podcast y para escucharnos en la 107.5 FM en Planet.
Esto es La Dosis. Stay Metal.
Yeah.